update. Oh, is a positive injury outlook for the Packers today as Jair Alexander and Romeo Doubs practice once again as Green Bay gets ready for their trip to Seattle coming up on Sunday. Alexander's missed games with a knee injury. Doubs has missed the last couple games with a concussion. Only player not practicing all today, safety Devon Bullard. Meanwhile, Packers will be facing a Seahawks team that has won 4 in a row and sits atop the NFC West. Packers, meanwhile, coming off just their second loss in their last 9 games. Despite falling at Detroit, they definitely have the respect of Seattle coach Mike McDonald.
They play a great brand of football. They play winning football. They've been doing it throughout their entire franchise history, and especially since Matt's got there and doing his thing. So we got a lot of respect for them and how they play. They're a physical football team. They play really hard. They attack the football. They take care of it on offense. They do all the things necessary that you need to do to be a really good football team. They do those things.
Again, it'll be the Packers and Seahawks on Sunday night. Kick is at 7:20. Turning to the Badgers, they're expected to host several transfer portal players here in the next few days and in the coming weeks. They've lost a total of 17 of their own players to the portal since the end of the season. That includes 3 quarterbacks, among them Braden Locke and Tyler Van Dyke.
Actor portrayal.
When I first looked into life insurance, I worried about the hassle. Then I found Better Life. Their simplified issue whole life coverage plans mean no medical exam. I found a plan that fit my budget, and now my final expenses are covered. Plus, I get Better Life member benefits at no extra cost. That's definitely better.
Better Life Insurance, where better means belonging. Call 888-488-4136. Insurance issued by Better Life Insurance Company. Terms and conditions apply. Member benefits are subject to change. Contact a licensed agent for details.
Well, the Bucs will take on the Hawks in the NBA Cup coming up on Saturday out in Las Vegas. Atlanta went on the road, beat the Knicks last night to punch their ticket to the semifinals. And the Badgers going to be in Indy on Saturday to face Butler. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Rasheed Walker did not practice. Bullard.
Doubs and Williams still in the protocol, or are they out?
They are. No, they are in. You got to really work on your wording of questions, Bill.
What's wrong with Rasheed Walker?
It is his knee.
How did Jair look?
He got through practice, and we'll see where he's at. I think Mike's done an outstanding job. It's a great scheme. They can throw a lot of different coverages at you, a lot of different fronts, different looks, and then you combine that with really good players, then it can be a problem.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Anytime Matt LaFleur speaks before the show starts, I always try to take a clip of what's going on with injuries. That's typically how the press conference starts. Throw that on the front of the intro just so you hear the injury report and then any follow-up questions. It's a real easy way to just kind of get the show rolling. Packers are pretty darn healthy. No NFL team is ever going to be 100% healthy. You're never going to go into a game in December, or probably not a game in the playoffs, unless you're really lucky, maybe have a bye. You're never going to go into a game with nobody on the injury report. Your only hope is, well, we're going to miss 1 or 2 guys maybe, and we hope those guys are just depth guys. We hope that those guys aren't the top guy at their position. And Doubs and Williams, especially Doubs still being in the concussion protocol, that's a little scary. Bullard's not practicing, but learning that his season is not ended by that injury, that's good enough news for me to think that he'll be back hopefully in the next couple weeks. I'll take it because I thought his year might have been done in Detroit. They're pretty good. They're pretty darn good. They're about as good as you could expect to be at this point in the season in December, because it's easy, it's easy to, as a fan, like, oh, our team has so many injuries. Look at, okay, would you rather have 15 of them, right? Because I think at least 2 or 3 are always going to be a reality of life in the NFL. You just don't want to be the team with 15 or 20 guys on the injury report and on injured reserve, like the Lions or like the Niners. Can we avoid being that team and just hope that the few limited injuries we have aren't guys that are absolutely crucial? I think the Packers are in that spot, depending on how Jair looks. Like, that answer did not give me a ton of confidence. To me, I heard Matt LaFleur's comment when the follow-up was asked by Bill Huber, how did Jair look? And Matt LaFleur goes, he looked fine. He practiced fully. We'll see. To me, I heard that as, well, yeah, he looked fine in practice, but he's looked fine in practice before and then gone out there on Sunday and re-aggravated or not been able to go. So we'll see. That's how I heard it, which is why I'm just so scared about the rest of the season from a defensive backfield perspective, from a secondary perspective, because even if Jair practices and he's ready to go on game day, what am I going to do? Hold my breath the entire game? It's kind of been his season. It's kind of been the story of the last 3 years for Jair. So we'll hold our breath on that. But pretty good on the injury front. That's an update from Matt LaFleur from his presser earlier today. The coordinators were speaking. I still think, as we speak right now, Jeff Hafley, as of 15 minutes ago, was speaking. So I think Stenovich and others are going to speak. We'll hear a little bit of that maybe tomorrow. We'll certainly hear a lot of that on Bill's show tomorrow. And maybe we'll get some updates from Mike Clemens, who will join us in hour number 2. This is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Bart Winkler of the Infinity Sports Network. It's been a little while since we've had Bart on. He'll be here at 4:30. I want to talk about, he does a national radio show. So I want to talk about maybe some bigger picture topics. Not that he can't talk Packers. He's a huge Wisconsin sports fan. He's done Wisconsin sports radio forever. But when Bart's on, I kind of like to, what's the big scuttlebutt if you're talking to a nationwide audience? And our lead topic today is Bill Belichick. And I think that's a big time topic for shows like Bart, who's on the Infinity Sports Network every night. 608-321-1670 if you want to text or call. I'll make sure to kind of be brief-ish in this first segment so we have time to take a couple calls before getting to Bart. And you can text at any time. You can comment on the live stream, YouTube and Facebook and Twitter at Wisco Grant. I love baseball. I love Badgers basketball. Spent a lot of time on Badgers hoops yesterday. I like the Bucks. They're all fun to talk about on sports radio. They all give us content. I think baseball is nice because it's an all summer thing. We can really relax and just do baseball for a long period of time. And Bucks talk certainly heats up in the playoffs, but there are lots of moments in the regular season worth talking about. And Badgers basketball, the nature of conference play is all those games matter. They're all important. So that works out really well, especially for this audience. The show's based in Madison, but I know we have a lot of Badgers hoops fans in La Crosse and in Eau Claire. We have listeners up in Marinette, too, where we have an affiliate, WNAM. So that just works really well for the show. But the NFL is number one for a million different reasons. The biggest reason being, of course, that every game is do or die, and the games are only once a week. Bart has joked with us before, and I know he's brought this up on his show for a long time. Imagine if baseball played an NFL schedule. Imagine if the Brewers played once a week. Try to wrap your mind around how we would view that game and how we would talk about that game and how it'd be not just a different sport, it would be a different universe with how we enact our fandom and how we talk about that sport on sports talk radio, right? So the schedule necessitates that we are locked and loaded and dialed in on the NFL. But the draft is also huge, right? There are analysts, that's their thing. Like, I am employed as a writer for the draft. I am employed as an analyst for the draft. I cover the Senior Bowl. I cover scouting. Like, that's its own universe in and of itself, separate from the games on Sundays, right? And then, as you've noticed, and as I've noticed, especially the last year or two, it feels like this gets bigger and bigger every year, talking about the hiring and firing of coaches, right? We don't talk about NBA coaches. I couldn't tell you half of the coaches in the NBA. I don't know. I know who coaches the Thunder, I guess, Dagenalt. I couldn't tell you. Does Quinn Snyder coach the Hawks right now? I don't know who coaches the Wizards. I don't know who coaches the Hornets. It used to be Borrego, but that might have been like 3 coaches ago. Clifford, I think, came after Borrego. Who coaches I don't know. Baseball, some NL managers, because a lot of them are former players. I'm getting to that age now where I start to recognize some, but it's not close to the NFL, how much attention we pay to the hirings and the firings of the coaches. Like, we're in the middle of an NFL season. The NBA season's going on. College basketball is going on. It's so busy. This is such a busy time of year. And yet, if you turn on sports radio, especially like a national show like Cowherd, you're going to hear a host leading a show with, who should the Bears hire? Right? Like, what should this team do with this coach? Like, we're talking about hiring and firing coaches in the middle of the year because that's so interesting, right? It's not just the games. It's the draft and it's the coaches. It's everything. Bill Belichick going to North Carolina, and it became official. I think last night his introductory presser was today. It's an unbelievable story. And I know this is a Wisconsin sports show, but for whatever reason, this story is kind of got my goat. It's kind of stuck in my craw a little bit. I'm a little fired up about it. Because over the last year, as you've consumed NFL content, you've had to endure people like Mike Lombardi and Matt Patricia, unemployed, but in media roles, working overtime, just glazing Bill. Wait until Bill gets a job. Wait until Bill's back. The Patriots are so dumb for firing Bill. They don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. I can't believe they let Bill Belichick go. I love Bill. Bill is the best. You don't know. You can't even begin to wrap your mind around how good of a coach Bill Belichick is. And then tangentially off of that, and this is what really triggered me a couple weeks ago, Matt Patricia's on Good Morning Football to talk about how the Lions have turned it around. Bro, they turned it around from the state You left them in. Like, why am I hearing from Matt Patricia? And I understand that some people like Mike Lombardi. He might be your bag. If that's the case, that's fine. I just don't like the shilling that took place over the last year. And I don't mean shilling the currency. I mean, they were shills for Bill Belichick. These mouthpieces, these public relations arms for getting Bill Belichick another job. Just wait until he's back. Just wait. We've had to endure, not enjoy, I've enjoyed, but endure Bill Belichick's stooges for the last however many months saying, oh, just you wait. And it would now seem that no teams were even remotely interested in him. Like, not even close. Last offseason, in retrospect, basically no one, what were there 6 job openings? I think there were 7 in total, one of them the Patriots, so cross that one off. There were 6 job openings. He got 1 interview. So it's not like there was wasn't a ton of interest drummed up last offseason when he was a year younger. I think he's 72 now, maybe about to turn 73, or maybe he just turned 72. What does it matter? He's a couple years away from being able to run for president, which is old as hell, right? So I'm not shocked that there's not a lot of interest, because in retrospect, there wasn't a lot of interest last year. But there's such little interest that Bill isn't even considering giving it a go. He's just going to go to college, okay? And now that he's done this, now I'm having to endure Michael Lombardi and others today, his inner circle, coming out and saying things like, well, actually, the college game is way better than the NFL. There's so many problems in the NFL. Why would you even want to coach in the NFL? I'm surprised Bill coached in the NFL as long as he did. College is where it's at. That's where, which is hilarious, because how many college coaches have retired to go into media, or how many college coaches have gone to the NFL saying, I'm done with that. I'm not doing the re-recruiting of my players every year. I'm not dealing with collectives, and then I'm out. And Bill, who we've been told for a year, just wait until he's going to light the league on fire. He was done dirty by the Patriots. Just wait until he's back. Now all those same pieces today, those same mouthpieces, those same people, like, well, actually, college is a lot better, because in the NFL, it's so corrupt, and it's all politics, and these owners, Bill just wants to coach. Okay, I guess. I read Seth Wickersham's report, and I really like Seth Wickersham. He's obviously all-time great NFL writer who's covered the Boston area. He's chronicled a lot of huge Patriot stories. He's written books. Like, I have nothing against Seth Wickersham, but I read the story that was all about Bill Belichick and the process of this hire coming to pass. This hiring, by the way, is a huge deal. It's possibly the greatest NFL coach in history who can't get another job, who's now going to coach. He's not seceding or succeeding. He's not replacing Saban. He's not going to Oregon. He's not going to USC. He's going to friggin' Chapel Hill. He's going to a basketball school. So when this became official, I'm like, well, I got to read how this came to pass. What does Wickersham have to say? I'm going to read you 10 seconds worth of words from the story. It's free at ESPN.com. It's not even behind a paywall. So long setup about how he, was thinking about wanting to chase Shula's record, blah, 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 but it didn't happen. Here's the kicker from the first portion of the story. It didn't happen, or it was because, in words of a confidant, Belichick is, quote, disgusted in what he believes the NFL has become. Quote, this is a big FU to the NFL, another Belichick confidant says. This is so lame. This is so dumb. I go, you guys don't want me? I'm not good enough anymore. Well, screw you. I didn't want a job. I'm going to go coach it. I'm going to go coach at a basketball school. Screw you. The NFL sucks. Like, okay, I think you would take the Jags job in a heartbeat if it was offered to you, Bill. And you might be asking, Grant, why do you care about this? You're obviously feeling, you have strong feelings about this, Grant. You're leading the show with it today. And part of that is there's no crazy breaking news with the Packers. We did a lot of Badgers basketball yesterday. We've done college football. We talked with Jesse Temple last night. Did a little bit on the Brewers. But there's not a natural Wisconsin sports topic to lead the show with tonight. And this is a huge story, so I'm leading with it. That's part of why I'm fired up and talking about it, but also 2 other reasons, okay? It really bothers me that Belichick's kind of cronies have used the media for a year. I got to watch Matt Patricia on Good Morning Football. I got to see Michael Lombardi everywhere. And if Michael Lombardi's your bag, more power to you. He's just not for me. And based on tweets from the Bill Simmons podcast Sphere, I think a lot of people could do without this much Michael Lombardi. Like, I don't think we need this much Michael Lombardi. If you disagree, that's fine. It's fine. We all like different things. But I've had to listen to the Belichick Sphere for a year talk down to everyone. well, the Patriots, they're dumb. They never should have fired him and wait until he gets a job, wait until he's back. Okay, well, Michael Lombardi, it's not like he's some high-level successful executive. He was a scout under Walsh. He was a scout type, player personnel type forever. He was general manager in Cleveland for 1 year, 1 season. He was an assistant to the coaching staff in New England, which is like, hey, we like this guy. Let's make him a job, which is fine. I'm not working in the NFL. Who am I to criticize? They worked at Visa in the last couple of years, which is like a Vegas sports betting network, and their programming's fine. But Michael Lombardi talking betting? Say he's not Nick Costos here. He's a boob who was a general manager once upon a time, who loves to talk down on people, and he carries himself like Vince Lombardi, not Michael Lombardi. And now I have to hear him today on a media tour, and he's been installed as the general manager at Chapel Hill. Go figure. Like someone who's stumped for a politician for 2 years only to be immediately granted a spot in the cabinet or on the staff when the politician is elected. It's just kind of gross. I don't like it. So I don't like that. I don't like being played through the media, through the sports media. You can play the political media. That's that world you play people. The sports media, that's not what this is for. Okay? We are an audience that likes to talk about sports. Do not play us. Do not use us. The story also matters to me because I don't think we should be that surprised that no NFL team wants Bill. And Bill Michaels, last couple of days, is like, why don't the Bears inquire? Why don't the Raiders? Like, why do no teams want him? And I'm like, look, if I ran the Bears or I ran the Raiders or I ran the Jags, yeah, those teams suck. Probably worth a shot. Probably worth a phone call. Let's say that to Bill Belichick. But why is he forced to go into college, or why has he been forced out of the NFL? Well, he's 72. He demands to have control over his entire staff and control over player personnel, which would be one thing if he hired good coaches or picked good players. He does neither. It's like, no, I wouldn't want to hire him either. If I was an NFL owner, why would I want to? I wouldn't want that. Even if I ran the Bears, maybe even if I ran the Jags. And it's a bummer because now we're not going to get to see Bill like elsewhere trying to prove that he could do it without Brady, which up until this point he hasn't been able to, which, look, even good coaches need good quarterbacks, of course. But it's just kind of lame that he's now at UNC, and I don't really like all of the discourse around it. You don't have to care. It's just how I'm choosing to begin the show tonight. We're going to talk a little bit more about this with Bart Winkler. If you have a take on this or anything else going on in Wisconsin sports, we got about 10 or 12 minutes to take some phone calls after this break before getting to Bart Winkler at 4:35, the Infinity Sports Network, 608-321-1670. Your thoughts next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
As a guy who went from college to the NFL, what do you think about Belichick going from NFL to college?
I haven't really thought about that. Excited for him. I got to know him pretty well when I was at Boston College, spent time with him one-on-one, would go down to OTAs and talk football with him. Obviously, what he's done in our profession is incredible, and I'm sure he'll do a great job there. We'll be a little bit different than the NFL, but I'm sure he'll figure it out. He's figured everything else out, so I wish him good luck, and I'm happy for him.
That's Jeff Hafley. Less than an hour ago, I went and pulled that. Started the show by talking about Bill Belichick being announced as the head coach at UNC today, giving his press conference. And you know what I didn't realize until today? It's kind of funny. I think it's funny. You might not care. But longtime friend of Milwaukee and Wisconsin sports radio, Kevin Holden, who was a sports guy at CBS 58 forever, recently left there, and he took a job doing sports down in North Carolina. And I don't know North Carolina very well. So when he announced the news, we're all very happy for Kevin. And he came on Bill's show. He's been on Bill's show a bajillion times. And I saw, oh, he's going to North Carolina. Best of luck. And it didn't really connect with me until today when Kevin is at Bill Belichick's press conference. What are the odds? He'd done sports in Milwaukee forever. And it comes time to make a change. And he goes down to North Carolina, and less than a couple of weeks at most after starting the job. Oh, who just took the football coaching job to replace Mac Brown at our local university? Oh, Bill freaking Belichick. So Kevin Holden is down there now covering Bill. I just thought that was funny today. Again, you might not care, but Kevin's been a friend. He's co-hosted or filled in for Bill. He's been a guest on our network. And I just thought that was funny today. So I was following a little bit of his reporting from the press conference. But that was Jeff Hafley in a presser less than an hour ago. A question from Bill Huber talking about Bill Belichick all of a sudden is in college. Maybe the greatest NFL coach, certainly of our lifetime, doesn't even get a second crack after the Patriots, which is not that hard to believe given that he's in his 70s and he insists on having control over everything, even though he kind of sucks at having control over everything. You know what I mean? It could be one thing if you pick good players and hired good assistant coaches, but if you're just going to hire Joe Judge and Matt Patricia and no, I'd rather pass. I'd rather spin the dice on a dozen other candidates at the NFL level. We're going to be joined by Bart Winkler, Infinity Sports Network, in about 10 or 12 minutes here. But if you have any thoughts on anything in the meantime, you don't need to talk about Bill Belichick. I just thought that's a crazy story and probably the biggest sports story of today. I'll take your calls, 608-321-1670. Johnny Cribbage texted in over the break, and he said, on UW Hoops, it always comes back to Wisconsin basketball on the show. Says, I really worry about rebounding and inside defense in road games. Well, they lost to Michigan last Wednesday, so it's not just road games, unfortunately. Man, could we go 2-7 or so on the road? Well, I can't speak to that, Johnny Cribbage. I don't know. I don't know with this team. But I cut this audio from the morning show because I got in this morning and I walked into what I dubbed earlier this morning, and now it's going to stick, the Ben Kenny Memorial Producer Studio. There's a little producer studio with a big window right next to it. I was sitting in there, and I was just kind of getting settled in, and I had my coffee, and Austin and Ebo are in here doing the show, and I'm listening, and who calls in but Dave from Monona? And I think Dave from Monona was following up a Vagabond John call, and Badger basketball was getting discussed. And I think this is one of the finest 60 seconds. I mean, Dave's got a lot of great calls, and you might not like Dave. I think even if you don't like Dave, you got to like this call. Dave, I don't know what got into him this morning. This is some of the finest sports radio calling I've ever heard. Listen to this. This is on Badger basketball for you, Johnny Cribbage, because he's got a lot of the same concerns.
Here, kitty.
Dave from Monona. What's
First of all, why does he say that? I'll have to ask him sometime. Here, kitty.
up, my brother? You rang.
Gentle parenting is when if your kids can't understand, shut the hell up, they should never be allowed out of the house. Stephen Crowell, peanut butter and jelly. I will never understand how that big white guy and Tyler Wall got scholarships. Greg Gard, my man, you need to do a better job of vetting these individuals. And as long as that person is starting, we are not going to win 9 games in the Big Ten. He needs to be at the end of the bench. Gilmore can't shoot. At least that son's a bitch is tough. He'll get in there. He'll rebound. He'll play a little defense. Peanut butter and jelly just goes, oh hum. It's so frustrating to listen to the game the other night. Same thing. To the rim we go. To the rim we go.
To the rim we go.
I mean, my God, Greg Gard.
Where did he get peanut butter and jelly? I don't even know why that makes sense. That's good. Stephen Crowell, peanut butter and jelly over here. And by the way, I think it's Carter Gilmore's birthday today. Happy birthday, Carter Gilmore, playing some of his best basketball. Yeah, he can't shoot, but at least that son of a bitch is tough. He'll get in there and mix it up. Nolan Winter might be skinny. He might be undersized, or not undersized. He's plenty tall, but he lacks mass. Let's say he lacks girth. Insert like, oh, it's funny. Grant said girth, but he does. He's skinny. But on Monday night, he was getting in there. He was digging deep. Or was that Tuesday night? I think it was Tuesday night. Who cares? You know what I'm talking about. Like, he was playing with toughness, drive. I think Vagabond John described his play. I think I saw on Twitter. Some heart from the big fella, he said. Peanut butter and jelly. To the rim we go. I was like, yeah, I got to clip that. And for those who don't know, Dave's blind. Dave only listens to the games, and yet his takes.
It's so frustrating to listen to the game the other night. Same thing. To the rim we go. To the rim we go.
To the rim we go.
I mean, my God, Greg Gard.
I'm sorry about my cough. I don't have a sore throat. I have a wheezy throat. I feel like the penguin in Toy Story. And Bill's got it today, too. And Bill was also getting the hiccups. I had the hiccups at the end of my show. I knock on wood, the hiccups have subsided. But also, a little Badgers news. Jordan Turner has announced he's transferring again. But as a player, he's made real progress. He played in Wisconsin, moved on to Michigan State, and while at Michigan State, he did not record any drunk driving arrests. So that's progress. Now, Jack Del Rio took his place, but more growth from Jordan Turner. Good transfer, good college football, sports. Great spot. Keep moving around. 608-321-1670. We'll take a call and then take a break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
My name's Jeff from Menominee.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, just want to hear your take a little bit on Bill Belichick being a little bit older.
Yeah.
And being maybe an old rough and gruff coach. As far as his recruiting, when he goes to these promising high schoolers and really wants to get a blue chipper in there, how do you see that going? How do you see him resonating with the kids?
Do you think he's going to do that, or do you think he'll have people go do it? I think he'll have people go do it. Like in today's day and age. If today's day and age, Jeff, can't as a high school, can I hop on a Zoom with Bill Belichick? Does he need to come to my living room and talk with my family? Or can you get, in 2024, can't you get like 99% of the effect if I'm on a Zoom with Bill Belichick? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I just wonder how appealing he'll be as an older coach.
So that's interesting.
And I don't want to pick on his age. Maybe it's just that rough and gruff personality and so on. And will he be able to shine up his image to, let's say, a real promising, very athletic high schooler? How do you think that will play out?
So it's an interesting question. And I think thank you, Jeff. I'm just a little bit up against it, but we'll talk more about this throughout the show. Thank you for listening, Menominee. I just think that if a coach can get me playing my best football and can help me win games and can get me to the NFL, I'm not saying the other stuff doesn't matter, but it matters a whole lot less. You know, if Bill Belichick is rough and gruff, but we're winning our games and I'm getting playing time as a player and I'm succeeding and I'm developing, and if I'm a 4 or 5 star recruit who feels in my mind like I should be putting myself on a track to go to the NFL, Bill Belichick can get me there. I don't think it matters too much at all. I think it plays just fine. It's when the team isn't winning, like the last couple of years in New England. It's like, well, I don't want to be around. I'm not going to hang around this jerk if we're losing. If we're winning games, it's one thing. You know what I mean? And I think the same in the NFL. If NFL owners thought Bill Belichick could come in and win games and deliver, they'd hire him. Well, I don't want to work with someone who's rude. They'd work with him in a heartbeat if they thought he could win games. But again, he's insistent on bringing his own coaches and drafting his own players. And he's proven that he stinks at drafting players and that his coaches are a bunch of Joe Judges and Matt Patricias and Michael Lombardis. I wouldn't want that either if I'm an owner. I think at college, it might just work. I think he's going to have a huge staff, a big investment from the university, and the name recognition will help. And there's a lot of ways nowadays in college football to skin a cat. I think you can take lots of different approaches, and I think there's an approach for Bill that'll work. I don't think he's going to win national titles, but I don't think it's going to be a train wreck. Let's take a break. We'll talk more about this. Jeff, thank you for the call. Bart Winkler, the Infinity Sports Network, longtime voice in Wisconsin sports radio, buddy for a long time, friend of the show. He's going to join us next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes.
Check. Da 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 da.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
As a guy who went from college to the NFL, what do you think about Belichick going from NFL to college?
I haven't really thought about that. Excited for him. I got to know him pretty well when I was at Boston College, spent time with him one-on-one, would go down to OTAs and talk football with him. Obviously, what he's done in our profession is incredible, and I'm sure he'll do a great job there. We'll be a little bit different than the NFL, but I'm sure he'll figure it out. He's figured everything else out, so I wish him good luck, and I'm happy for him.
That's Jeff Hafley. I know I played that last segment, but it's the only soundbite that I have pertaining to Bill Belichick, so I might play it one more time, maybe in the final hour. That's from less than an hour ago. Jeff Hafley meeting with the media, the rest of the coordinators. I think it's probably still going on right now. Mike Clemens is going to join us in about an hour to bring us some more of that sound and to update us further on what happened at practice. They were inside today. It's always a big talking point. We'd be inside, we'd be out. They were inside today, but I think they opened the doors. So indoor, but they cool it off a little bit. Again, Mike will tell us. I know these are important things that always seem to come up. Inside, outside, doors open, doors closed. Mike will join us in an hour. Right now, not covering the Packers actively at this moment in time, but like myself, a Packers shareholder, Bart Winkler. You hear him nightly on the Infinity Sports Network. Also a very fun podcast that I join occasionally, Into the Winklerverse. Bart, welcome back. How are you? It's nice to see you.
Good to see you, Grant. For those that follow your show on video, I am repping the Milwaukee Panthers. Big win over Doug Gottlieb and the boys last night.
You know, I was thinking about, because I have like 4 or 5 sound bites for the show to use as bumpers, and one of them is like 40 seconds of Doug Gottlieb being like, the book is out. You just got to beat us up on the boards. They were men, we were boys. And I thought, no, because we're not going to talk UWM. If you would have had that sweatshirt on, if I'd have known, I probably would have played it.
Oh, no, it's not a sweatshirt. It's one of those like thin hoodies.
Oh, so you can work out in it.
Yeah. And of course I do, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this Bill Belichick thing? Like, is this item number 1 and number 2 for a national sports talk show like yours?
Thursday of last week, I think a lot of people thought that this was just sort of a thing that happened, that it wasn't going to be that he wasn't going to actually be the head coach of North Carolina. I don't think we ever thought that, but it happened. And so as this trickled in, this is one of these great sports stories where, what did we do? Tuesday, we talked about, this could actually happen. Wednesday, it happened. And now Thursday, I've got audio of Bill.
Yeah.
That I can play. So a great sports story that stretches through the work week with reasons to go back to it every single day. I think that I don't know that it will work. And that's like the rush to say, it's not going to work. It is going to work. It probably won't, but that depends on what the definition of it working is.
Of course.
Do you expect him to go in there and get to the college football playoff next year? And then if he doesn't, then it didn't work. Do you expect him to do that in 3 years? If it doesn't, did it not work? Bill Walsh, after his run with the Niners, he went back to Stanford, had a 10-win season right away, made a bowl game, but finished 17-17-1 in 3 years. And I think it's going to be more along the lines of he goes there. It's very intriguing right away. They'll beat a couple non-conference teams. They'll do what North Carolina does every year, go 8-4, 8-5, 7-6. There's going to be the day where he coaches against Dabo Sweeney.
That'll be
that
cool.
will be very fun. We'll get all excited for that. Maybe watch that. But I do think that the more likely scenario is 3 years from now, we're like flipping through the 9 games going on at once. And on the CW network, it's North Carolina against Boston College. And we're like, oh, Belichick's still there. I don't think this is going to be a story that is just I don't think that he's going to have the effect on college football the way that Dion did maybe at Colorado.
Do you think, are you surprised that there was like, there is a jarring lack of interest for him to throw in the towel this quickly? And I know the college calendar kind of dictates, some of this timing too, but are you surprised that there was as little NFL interest as there must have been?
I think I am. I think when this all happened a week ago, I didn't think we'd get to this point. And again, I don't know that there were a lot of, it just seems so out of left field, but it almost, looking back, it was so out of left field that, well, it's got to be something. If this is random, it's got to be something. But the writing's, clearly on the wall for him. There were 8 jobs open last year, and only really one team showed interest until the organization basically rose up to talk Arthur Blank out of hiring him with the Atlanta Falcons. And now this year, as he's looking around, like, does the Raiders job open? Does he want to work for Tom Brady? Does the Bears job open or stay open? And Kevin Warren's going to give him some of his power, the team president there. Does the Jacksonville job open? And they want to go through, like, then does Bill want that? So I think when we talk about some of these coaches, because, the Browns have been bad, but really they're only bad when they have to play Deshaun Watson. Kevin Stefanski's a great coach. But when we talk about Stefanski, we say, oh, well, if he got fired, there'd be teams firing their coach to go hire this guy. And nobody did that for Bill.
We said that of Vrabel and McCarthy. We always say that's something we always do. We always step on that rake. Well, if he gets fired, he'll have his pick of jobs tomorrow. And then he doesn't. Like, you could make a list of coaches we thought that for, and none of them were Bill Belichick, who won 6 titles,
So what's interesting about this decision, I guess, is that Bill, who, probably still wants to win one without Brady, probably wants to get Don Shula's record of most wins, and these things are slipping away from him. And so if you're not going to get those, then what do you do? If the NFL is basically saying you're not coaching here anymore, we're retiring you from coaching, what's Bill's next move as a 72-year-old man who I think is well received in the 9 different media jobs he has?
Yeah, people liked him.
But it's like he wants to coach. And so I look at this, like, we can talk about how will North Carolina do, how will Bill Belichick do, but I'm trying to figure out the motivation for Bill. And Bill is basically Robert De Niro's character in the 2015 hit movie The Intern, where he's just bored and he wants to go back to work.
Sure.
And so basically, this is his internship, and the Tar Heels are Anne Hathaway.
Off the wall question. We don't need to dwell on this. Do you think having a 24-year-old girlfriend might have hurt his chances? Nick Wright brought this up on TV the other day, and I'm like, I hadn't thought about that. It seems dumb, but that has to be something that comes up in a meeting, right? Like, if the Bears are meeting or the Raiders are meeting, well, we could go after Bill. He's been good on TV. What's going on with him and the young lady, though? Is that not a thing that would at least come up in a meeting?
I don't know. I haven't thought of it that way. I'm getting bombarded with people saying, oh, well, I had one guy, hey, theory. The reason Bill started dating a young person was that he could learn Gen Z's language and then help him on the recruiting trail. No, I'll tell you a lot of reasons he started dating a young person. I'll tell you one real strong reason he started dating a young person. That's about the only reason that there is, friends.
To date someone, 50 some years, almost 50 years, 50-ish years.
And what I'm hinting at is to see the world through different eyes.
Of course, perspective, fresh perspective, and a youthful exuberance. What I don't like is the framing, and maybe this is something that only bothers me. But we've had to endure Lombardi and Patricia all year on every platform imaginable, being like, man, just wait until Bill gets back. Just wait until he gets back. You guys don't know. And then this happens, and they're like, well, you know what? Actually, Bill just wants to coach. And, in a lot of ways, the college game's actually better than the program. It's like, wait a minute. If he wanted to coach, the way I view it, he wants to be in charge. He wants to be in charge of everything. And in college, he can do that. He can hire his dumbass friends who aren't any good, as we've learned. And like in the NFL, he wasn't good at building a team. He wasn't good at drafting a team. But he's like, but I still want to do it. I wouldn't hire him either.
Well, and this shows you like if somebody comes in and wants absolute power or whatever they want, there's always going to be somebody desperate enough to say, all right, it's going to be us.
Some mark. Yeah.
There was really no other option for Aaron Rodgers to play after Green Bay. Where was he going to play? What team was going to see what was happening and say, oh, we'll take that. It didn't work for them. It can work for us. And it's the Jets because of their now 14 years of not missing the playoffs. And for North Carolina, like nobody thinks of that. Like they're a football school now. The hell they are.
Yeah, really.
They're the same school they were a week ago. They've just got a 72-year-old bored man as their coach who's really just doing this to help his son get a job afterwards.
Stephen Belichick just might not be a very good coach. Like he was the defensive coordinator for the Patriots and they had to have someone else run the meetings because he couldn't command I don't know. And then I hear his cronies like, well, there's a lot of nepotism in the NFL. The owners' kids, they got their thumb and everything. It's like, well, what is Stephen Belichick for then? Like, I don't know. We've talked about this enough. Bart Winkler is here. Nighttime and Nationwide, the Infinity Sports Network. The in-season tournament's going on. Let's talk about that for a couple minutes because I think when we're done, this show's probably going to turn back to Badgers hoops until Clemens comes on. So we have the other sports. The in-season tournament starts up again. They're in
the NBA Cup now.
The NBA Cup, sorry. And I've been watching. I'm not mocking it. I've enjoyed Doc Rivers. I said this the other day. Like at the end of the Magic game in his post-game press conference, he said, look, I basically told the guys, the first team to play defense goes to Vegas. And I'm like, that's such an absurd thing to admit. But I kind of enjoy him. And like, it feels like the odds are against the Bucks probably winning another title with Giannis. That's fine. They're not zero, but you would bet against it. So let's have a fun coach. And like, I don't know. I'm enjoying this. And, Sixers fans or Celtics fans, Clippers fans say, we'll just wait for the playoffs. You'll stop enjoying it. Man, we've been losing in the playoffs. It won't be anything new if they get bounced in the playoffs. I'm enjoying this Bucks team since they turned it around after the first couple bad weeks of their season.
Yeah, and having this NBA Cup maybe like gave them a reason to kind of focus in and get motivated about something. And when watching these games, like I've gotten into it as a fan. I'm still looking for the why I'm getting so into it, but I am getting into it. I think against the Heat, I really wanted to win. Not just to get to the quarters, but because they blew a 20-point lead in that game or were on the cusp of it. And I didn't want to lose that way.
You'd rather just lose by 20 than be up by 20 and then end up losing. It's a weird thing, but I agree with you.
I certainly wanted to see them in the standalone games this weekend in Vegas. I want to see them, in a standalone game on next Tuesday night on national TV. I want to see all that kind of stuff. I think the NBA Cup, how is it successful? So year one, it was successful because of the conversation around it where people were like, is this successful? But it was being talked about. So, okay, you did a thing. People are curious enough, and the curiosity itself made it a success for year one.
The story can be, it's new. That was it's a thing.
So then year two, I think what year two needs is it happened once, and now there needs to be a buy-in from the participants of the tournament. And I think you are seeing that. The Rockets last night when they won, they were exuberant. Now, they haven't beat the Warriors since before COVID. The week that I was, the last week of February when I was like, oh, geez, I might maybe want to buy some more toilet paper.
Yeah.
Stopping after work once a day to buy a giant pack. I didn't run out of toilet paper the whole time. In fact, I was selling them out of my garage. But they haven't won in 4.5 years. So maybe that was some of the exuberance. But they wanted to go. And like Giannis has said, like, this is something we want. Doc said, if you're going to do it, we might as well win it. So the players are buying in. And then I think for it to continue to be a success is going to need to be, well, do the fans want this? And even if the Bucks win the NBA Cup, what does it mean? Like, we're not at the point where if they lose in the semis, that tweet's not going to go around where it's got like all the heartbreaking Wisconsin things. Then they're not going to add back-to-back semifinal NBA Cup losses. We're not adding that. And if we win, I don't know, like, we're not going to say, oh, Giannis, like, he only won one NBA championship, but we did get that cup victory in 24. We're not gonna say that either. I do think like the structure of it gets some of these teams, like maybe the Hawks are thinking, okay, we were on the stage a few years ago, we can do this again. I think it like boosts young teams like that. I think the Magic will benefit from it. The Pacers certainly did a year ago, but then the Lakers won it, and they end up, and we have their coach in Darvin Ham. So it's a thing. Yes, curiosity. Players are buying into it. Yes. $500,000 helps. And then we got to get the fans, like, if they have the NBA Cup and I sit there on Tuesday night and watch it, why am I happy? Am I happy because Pat Connaughton rode the bench to $500,000? No. Am I happy that the Adetokounmpo's got another $500,000 to put into their business? No. What am I'm happy my team won something, but what is it? It's like winning the battle for Atlantis. I mean, yay. Now what?
It's more about in the NBA, it's about not losing. It's about not being the team that's getting clowned online. And I think you mentioned the young teams. I think
you almost want to lose the NBA Cup final because you're going to get clowned if you win. So you're getting clowned if you don't advance, but then if you win, like the Lakers got clowned more last year for winning than the Pacers did for losing.
The NBA in a lot of aspects is a lose-lose proposition. Like the way that the league is talked about is kind of lame. I'll look forward to it. It's a nice opportunity for young teams who are succeeding but haven't pierced through yet to the shows like First Take to like get a nod. It's like, oh yeah, the Rockets are good. Look what they've been building. For whatever that's worth. It might be worth nothing to some people, but that's an angle too. I think we used collectively the word exuberant or exuberance 3 times in this interview. And I don't know the last time I've used that word, so that's cool. Something.
Yeah, I pick on. I hook on words, and then
once you use it once, you got to keep going back.
Well, I've got a vocab dictionary calendar. Exuberance was Monday, so I've been sneaking it in more.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. I like that. Well, I look forward to listening to your show tonight. Bartometer on Thursday night, right? What do you got going tonight?
Yeah, 9 to 1, p.m. to a.m. for those of you night owls. I had a lot of people call. I made a lot of promos last night. A lot of people called in saying, hey, I like the show. We're like, okay, add it to the bucket. You will be on the radio as long as this show is on the radio. So good for you. We'll react to Rams 49ers as well. Kind of a big game. If the Rams win, their chances are a lot better. If the Niners win, probably neither of these teams will make the playoffs, but they'll both like technically still be alive. We'll talk about that. Obviously, catch up on Juan Soto being introduced today, catch up on Belichick. And then at 10 o'clock p.m. Central will be my weekly Bartometer. We're going to take a look at the best changes in sports since in the last 5 years.
I'm looking forward to that. Well, thank you for the time, Bart, on Twitter at Bart Winkler Show, and listen to his show. Thank you. It was nice to catch up. I think we're doing a podcast tomorrow, so I'll see you soon.
Grant, I always cherish, that's the word today, our time together.
I appreciate you, Bart. Thank you. Host of America's Postgame Show, as I lovingly call it. That's not official. That's just something that I like to say. 9 to 1 nightly on the Infinity Sports Network. 3 minutes. We'll come back, continue the Wisco Sports Show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Word's out in the league, and this is the way you beat us, and we just have not responded. And we are searching for guys that respond. Obviously, our offense gets discombobulated because we're just trying to find somebody who will defend and rebound. We haven't found it. Search is out. We got a good old-fashioned ass whooping on the boards. And they were just men, and we were boys. Milwaukee was just confident. They just were. They were sticking out their chest. They were talking trash, and they were throwing us around. And our guys looked like deer in the headlights.
I told Bart, I had a soundbite. Doug Gottlieb last night after the I-43 rivalry concluded. Green Bay got spanked. I don't have a dog in the fight. I think I'm a UWM fan, probably over Green Bay. I just prefer Milwaukee to Green Bay. Like, if we're just talking about cities and regions of the state, I will prefer Southeast Wisconsin to the Fox. I'm just not a huge Fox Valley guy. That's fine. Love, you get up towards the UP, Marionette area, up there, yes. But the whole Winnebago region, pass for me. I'll cheer for Milwaukee, but I didn't have that soundbite. I wanted to prove it. I wasn't talking out my butt to Bart. I got a comment here from Paul. And Paul, you must have seen this on Facebook. Why the hell are you going to Princeton Valley Golf Course? Not that I mind. I live in the neighborhood. Well, it's kind of an aggressive way to ask a question if you don't. Why the hell are you going? I mean, not that I mind. I live there. We're doing a live show the 26th. So the day after Christmas. So if you are a listener on Sports Talk 1051, WAYY, our Eau Claire affiliate, come out. It'll be a really fun time. So I'm just going to do the show at the bar. And if you are a caller, you want to come on, you want to be a part of the show, I would love that. Or you just want to come hang out, meet other listeners. I don't want to act like I'm an attraction, but I would like to meet listeners as well. It'll be a blast and a half. There's a Facebook event. So if you go to my Facebook page, the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills, Princeton Valley shared it as well. Say that you're interested or say that you're going. You drum it up. Let's get that thing buzzing over on Facebook. We'll talk more about it maybe on the other side. 2 minutes. We're back.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers return to the field for practice today as they continue to prep for Sunday's trip to Seattle to face the Seahawks. The weather in Green Bay quite frigid today, but the team could be dealing with some different weather conditions on Sunday night. Rain, always a possibility in Seattle. Early forecast has rain on the menu for the weekend. Coach Matt LaFleur said they'll be prepared for the weather and the environment.
You just got to embrace the elements no matter where you're at. We've played in rain games, some sloppy weather games. Obviously, it's a little colder here than it is out there, but I've been a part of 3 great teams that have played in Seattle. It's a great environment for football. Their fans do a great job, and they've got a reason to cheer. I mean, their team's doing a great job.
Packers head there with a 9-4 record. Seattle sitting in first place in the NFC West by a game. Kick on Sunday night is at 7:20. Turning to the Badgers, Stretch Kahuna back in the fold. Redshirt freshman receiver announced earlier this week that he was hitting the transfer portal, only to change his mind yesterday and return to Madison. Finished third on the team in receiving this year. Meanwhile, quarterback Braden Locke is in the transfer portal after going 4-8 as a starter over the last 2 seasons.
Actor portrayal.
When I first looked into life insurance, I worried about the hassle. Then I found Better Life. Their simplified issue whole life coverage plans mean no medical exam. I found a plan that fit my budget, and now my final expenses are covered. Plus, I get Better Life member benefits at no extra cost.
Better life insurance, where better means belonging. Call 888-488-4136. Insurance issued by Better Life Insurance Company. Terms and conditions apply. Member benefits are subject to change. Contact a licensed agent for details.
Well, Wisconsin going to make its way to Indianapolis tomorrow. It's where they're going to face Butler on Saturday. Badgers have lost 3 straight since an 8-0 start. And the Bucs going to be heading to Vegas this weekend to face the Hawks in the NBA Cup semifinals. The winner gets the Rockets or the Thunder in the final. Milwaukee lost in the semifinals last year to Indiana. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Rasheed Walker did not practice. Bullard.
Dobbs and Williams still in the protocol, or are they out?
They are. No, they are in. You got to really work on your wording of questions, Bill.
What's wrong with Rasheed Walker?
It is his knee.
How'd Jair look?
He got through practice, and we'll see where he's at. I think Mike's done an outstanding job. It's a great scheme. They can throw a lot of different coverages at you, a lot of different fronts, different looks. And then you combine that with really good players, then it can be a problem.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
As I was saying before we had to pause, going into Zach's update there, and we appreciate Zach. Speaking of updates, speaking of people I appreciate, Mike Clemens going to be here in a half hour. He will bring us the latest from Green Bay. Coordinators spoke today and who practiced and what was practice like. It was inside, but the doors were open because it's not going to be 0 degrees in Seattle. So we don't really need to prepare for those conditions, but it's also not going to be a shiny sunny day. I almost said shiny, sunshiny day. That would be repetitive from the Department of Redundancies department. Before we had to break for the update, I was telling you that on the 26th in Eau Claire, if you're a listener on Sports Talk 105.1 WAYY, you have an opportunity to come out to a live show if such a thing interests you. And you might be saying, Grant, I listen to you every night and I appreciate you giving me entertainment on the way home. I don't need to come do an in-person thing. Hey, that's fine. That's 100% fine. I talk to people all the time who are like, hey, I listen all the time and I enjoy it, but I don't need to call. I never call. It's like, that's okay. That's okay. That's just fine. I'm glad. Thank you for listening. So there's some of you who are like, hey, I like listening every night. I don't need it. I don't need to come to a thing though. But if you're interested in coming to a thing, and I like hanging out with other sports radio listeners, and I do like going to sports radio things, we're going to be at Princeton Valley Golf Course, which is just kind of on, well, who am I explaining this to, right? Like if you're in Eau Claire, you know exactly where it is. And if you're not in Eau Claire, no amount of loose description will help you or mean anything to you. But it's on the north side of Eau Claire, kind of by the North Crossing, if I'm recalling correctly, near 53, Business 53, 312. It's kind of right in the center there, not too far from Chippewa Falls and Lake Hallie, which is kind of why I like the location, because if people want to come down from Chippewa Falls, they can. You don't have to come all the way through Eau Claire, all the way over towards Menominee, or not that would be that far. Going from Chippewa Falls to Menominee wouldn't be the end of the world, but you get my point. It's pretty central. So come on out. I'm going to get a fish fry, have a couple delicious ice cold Liney's beverages, mingle, have a good time. It's the day after Christmas. So my hope is that a lot of people will have that day off and will be looking for something to do. And maybe you parlay that into a Friday off so we can really have a good time on Thursday night. But it's the first time I've ever been able to do a live show for our Eau Claire audience. We've done them in La Crosse. We've done them in Madison. And I've been on in Eau Claire for 3 or 4 years. I don't remember. I think it started in 2020, 2021 maybe. And this is the first time I've ever been able up there and able to do a live show. So come on out. That'll be the 26th. The show will be at 4. I'll be there setting up a little bit before. I'll be around, but from 4 to 6, we'll do the show, and then we can mingle and hang out if anyone wants to play darts or anything afterwards. It'll be a good time. So there is a Facebook event. If you don't like my show's Facebook page, it's all right now. Go like that, because then you'll get this kind of information. It'll show up on your timeline. But also, I started an event. We have 5 people who are going and 19 people interested, and I just posted it this morning. So let's go goose those numbers. Even if you're like, I probably won't go, but maybe, well, just say you're interested. That'll get it drummed up. I worked in radio and I've done enough events long enough to know how these numbers work. If there's more people saying they're interested and they're going, that gets it out there. So I would love to see a lot of you. But again, if you're like, Grant, I like listening to the show, but it kind of begins and ends when I get in and out of my car. I get it. That's fine. But if it's your thing, Princeton Valley, it should be an awesome time. I'm really looking forward to it. 608-321-1670. We talked about the Belichick story. I think it's the biggest sports story of the week. It's actually pretty insane. Pretty crazy. It's pretty friggin' crazy. Like, if Aaron Rodgers had left the Packers, and Packers fans were like, oh boy, well, now we get to see what he does with life after Green Bay. Like, this is a different chapter of his book, one that we weren't sure. Like, I didn't know if Rodgers was ever going to play elsewhere. I didn't know if that chapter was ever going to be written. And we were so interested to see what it looked like when he went to the Jets, and he got hurt, sadly, but we've gotten to see it at least this year. With Brady, when he left New England, Patriots fans and football fans writ large got to see, okay, what does he look like outside of Belichick and outside of the Patriot system? And it turns out, okay, yeah, Brady's pretty freaking good. And I missed the mark on Brady for a long time. I still think Brady got lucky a lot, but also, like, Brady did a lot of things that as a younger man I didn't really appreciate. Like throwing a check down when the check down is the right play. I used to think, oh, Brady's not any talented. Look, he's just a check down Charlie. Okay, but guess what? When it's snowy and really cold and you're playing against an elite defense, throwing back shoulder routes against Richard Sherman's probably not the way to go. Maybe you want to do something a little bit more efficient in the playoffs. Brady was really good at that, and I think it took a couple extra years of me watching football to realize that. I needed to mature a little bit to realize that. I also think Brady got lucky here and there, but he didn't luck his way to whatever 7 rings. He might have, 1 or 2, which is still wild. But back to my original point, we got to see what he looked like in that next chapter, right? What did it look like, even with McCarthy, when he left Green Bay? And I think we made the mistake with McCarthy, as Bart and I were talking about, that we make with a lot of coaches, where it's like, well, if they fire that guy, he'll have a job tomorrow. And a lot of times that's just not the case. Like, Vrabel still doesn't have a job. And I think Vrabel will get hired this offseason, but I don't know. He didn't get a job last offseason. And I don't know that he was a finalist. I'd have to go back and look. But it's not like Vrabel had his pick of jobs and he was just choosy. It's not like Vrabel had the Ben Johnson experience last year, where it's like Washington offered him the job. They're flying to see him to sign it. And he's like, actually, never mind. I'm out. Like, I bet Vrabel was in the running, but it's not like Vrabel turned down jobs, to my memory. I could be misremembering. We'll see if Vrabel gets a job. We always think, well, if that guy gets fired, he'll have a job tomorrow. It took McCarthy a year. And I'd be interested in retrospect, like, if Jerry Jones doesn't hire him, who would have hired him? I think he probably would have gotten a job, but who knows? What the bummer is with Belichick now is we don't get to see what that chapter looks like. That's a chapter. The book is done now. It's over. Unless he coaches at UNC for a year and then comes back to the NFL. But at that time, he'll be a year older. And I still think he'll want to come back to the NFL saying, I want to bring Lombardi. I want to bring Vrabel. I want to bring Joe Judge. I want to bring my son. I want to bring Patricia. And I want to pick all the players. And still, if I was an owner, I'd be like, I don't want you in charge of all that. You're not good at it. You were proven to be bad at those things once Brady left. I don't want you in charge of everything. And we don't get to see it. Now he goes to UNC, and that'll be interesting. Like, that'll be noteworthy. We'll check in on it, but we're not going to get to do what we've done with Rodgers. Let's see what happens when he's in a different environment, or with McCarthy, or with Brady. And that kind of sucks. That's kind of crummy. It sucks that we don't get to watch the next chapter of Belichick's story. I think it's a huge story, but I realize it's not Wisconsin related. 608-321-1670. Jeff in Eau Claire says, Tretch Kahuna when he saw Locke enter the transfer portal, and it's the gif of Michael Scott going, I'm in. So both quarterbacks hit the portal. Kekahuna left. I don't know that it's quarterback related. I don't think it's quarterback related. I think it's role related and possibly money related. I would assume that UW upped their offer. The thing is, and I texted Zach last night because I was all pissy about this, and Zach always shuts me down, and he's probably rightfully so. Because Zach tweeted out the picture that Kekahuna posted on Instagram, and it was a statement like, I'm back. And Zach's post was, basically like he's not transferring after all. And I texted Zach. I said, can Tretch grow up? What is this foolishness? And I'm not putting Zach on blast here. I think this is what Zach would tell me if he was on the air with me right now. He says, it's a business, dude. He had some leverage and used it. This is adult as it gets, which is correct. Zach is correct there. What a stupid timeline we live in, where Tretch Kekahuna was probably a top 3 receiver on this team this year. And it's like, I'm transferring. Here's a long statement about how much I loved my time in Madison and my growth and experiences and how much it means to me. And I'll always consider Madison, all of that, right? And also, here's a graphic of me larger than life standing in Camp Randall with a helmet on my shoulder. And then an illustrated signature of me at the bottom with my number. Let me post that. And all Badgers fans are like, it's kind of odd, I guess. Like, he played a lot, but it's not surprising. The team wasn't all that great, and he probably feels like he could have got the ball more. All right. And then a couple days later, it's like, I'm back. And my response was, well, you kind of never went anywhere else. It's like, when you leave the apartment or you leave the house in the morning, you're like, all right, I'm going to work. See ya. Love you. Bye. And then you come back in 20 seconds later because you forgot your keys and then someone in the house goes, back already? How was work? Like, that's what this was. He didn't go What do you mean you're back? You didn't go anywhere. You just posted a graphic, which I think it was Wally in Wisconsin last night who called in, member of the Bart Lundy Hive. Was banging the gong for the I-43 rivalry, big UWM guy. We got talking about statement culture. It's like we're so obsessed with tweeting statements, whether they're in the Notes app. I think most have graduated out of the Notes app. Now we're posting pictures designed by graphic designers, and all of it. Like, it's the curb joke in the reunion season, I think, when they're at the party and George has his book, but it's not really a book. It's a pamphlet. And George is like, I got it down to the essentials, acting without acting. Right. And Jerry says to Larry, I think it's like, you ever notice how people are saying, having said that, after just saying something, it kind of negates the first part. Like, that's every statement posted by college athletes. It's like, Dear Badger Nation. This is what I would write if I was writing a statement, if I was playing football. Dear Badger Nation. First of all, I'd like to thank God for giving me this opportunity. And in that first sentence, there would be something spelled wrong. Of course, I also want to thank Coach Fickle and fill in the blank assistant coach for showing interest in me and supporting me throughout the process of the last year. These experiences in Madison will never be forgotten, and the growth and maturity is something that I will hold near and dear to my heart. Again, there would be one more spelling error in that last sentence. New paragraph. Having said that, I have decided that, back up, backspace. Having said that, after long talks with my family, I've decided that it is in my best interest to enter my name into the transfer portal in 2024. And then space, and then it would be some catchphrase that no one is like, okay, so you're a 21-year-old who is the third best receiver on the team. You have a catchphrase, and the catchphrase would be like, hands up, emoji, something, signature, Grant Bills 21. Post. Put that out there. I cooked with that. And then in the case of Tretch Kekahuna now, and I'm glad he's back. He's a good player. The Badgers need good players. Now we have a new statement. It's just, I'm back. It's like, you didn't leave. The only thing you did was tweet a picture. A poorly written statement. That's the only thing you did. So I'm glad he's back. I understand the shenanigans. It's like, I want to make sure this coaching staff is really committed to me. I want to squeeze every nickel and dime out of the varsity collective that I can. But it's just like this. Does anyone else find this process just so incredibly lame? I don't mean to be all whiny and complainy, but I saw Tretch's announcement last night. I'm like, could you just tell us when you're done? Could we do that? Could we skip all of the stepping stones? Just let me know when you're staying or going, please. We can skip to the end of this. Just pain in the ass process. I know I sound like an old man, but I'm glad Tretch Kekahun is back. It's just I could skip the charade completely. 608-321-1670. This call could be Grant, I completely agree with you, or Grant, you need to chill out. Let's see. Wisco Grant, who's this? Wisco Sports Show, who's this? God.
Wisco Chad.
Hey, Wisco Chad. Hey, how's Sun Prairie this evening?
Nice and cold.
Yeah, it's chilly as hell. By the way, I think the very short statement about the weather, perfunctory for Midwestern small talk, I think that this is good for us. We've gotten soft. It only snows like 2 times a year. I like that the night before last night, I'm like, okay, where are my gloves? Where are my boots? I want to make sure those are in the car. I'm going to give myself an extra 20 minutes to scrape if I need to warm up the car. Like, I think this is good for us. I think this builds character, and we've lost a little character the last couple of years. Been a little mild.
I wasn't even cold today. Prepared for it.
Attaboy, Chad. Didn't bother you because you dressed for the weather. Good for you.
Not at all. Didn't wear any gloves. We're good. I'm just getting tougher.
Oh, you're just a badass. Okay. Oh, you're my bad.
Just like the Packers getting tougher because they have to play tougher teams like the Bears or the Lions.
That's a good segue. Let's talk some Packers.
Well, we're going to talk Packers, but first I want to backtrack up. You are really turning into that old man that they're talking about, the receding hairline and the get off my lawn. Welcome him back.
Joke's on you. I don't have a lawn, but yeah. Okay. Welcome back, Tretch. Man, those couple days in the transfer portal wilderness. Like, I don't know.
I don't know you follow, but I said the same thing to Evo in the morning. Like, I think it's a little ridiculous, the state of college football, about the transfer portal and how people go into it. And, like, there's no guarantees you're even going to be on another team.
Yeah. So, there's thousands of players. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm almost at the point where it's like, no, if you put your name in the portal, you have to go. Like, this is what you signed up for. Go and act on it now. Go find your team
they really
and your money.
Should enact that law because really all we've done is essentially created a free agency at this point. So
yeah, but imagine imagine in professional sports and plenty of people have made this comparison, but like a player every offseason could just go test free agency. Be like, I'm testing free agency, and then I'm back. Like it's just.
Well, I said essentially we've basically created an unrestricted free agency every year, which is more annoying than anything because there's zero loyalty, right? Like if somebody were to come along and offer you $14 million, you're going. There's no way I'm not playing quarterback for.
I'm not leaving Bill high and dry like that. You can take your 14 and stick it.
Yeah, that's the leaving people high and dry. I don't know. I don't know if I would consider either of our quarterbacks leaving as high and dry.
I know what you mean. I know.
We got one that's a medical case, and the other one that we know he can't play. So who cares?
Yeah, they couldn't play. Well, and that's the funny thing about the Braden Locke situation is if I'm his coach, I'm like, Braden, if I'm being 100% honest with you, even if you're third on the depth chart and the first 2 guys in front of you we can't play you. It's a non-starter. The fan base won't have it. The boosters won't have it. We cannot have you playing next year. So just go. Like, go to another place because you cannot play here.
I wonder if that was a conversation that he had with Fickle at the end of the year. And
probably.
I mean, they probably disguised it as, new offensive coordinator, new scheme. You don't fit the scheme, yada, yada, yada.
Well, do you really want to stay? Longo brought you here. We're going to bring in a new scheme. Braden, you don't really want to learn a new scheme, do you?
I kind of missed your take on the hire. I didn't actually hear it. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I don't know what to think.
The Grimes hire?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's fine. I appreciate the call, Chad. I just want to get to one more person before we go to break here. And I'll leave you on hold just because I know you asked a question. I will answer it. But I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I think the spirit, the general identity and what he wants to do will be a better fit. I think it'll be easier to execute. And it'll be easier for a lesser quarterback to execute. Look, if Mordecai plays all the games last year and Tyler Van Dyke plays all the games this year, I don't know if we're all really losing our mind over the idea to hire Phil Longo. I think I don't want to say a bigger concern. Both sides of the ball were good enough this year. I'm more worried about how they're going to get bigger and stronger on the defensive line because you just can't get dog walked by Iowa and Nebraska. Like that, you can't. Because if you get blown out by Iowa, like we're trying to fight for 3 wins now all of a sudden. If you can't hang in there with Iowa, like these seasons are going to get really long, really fast. You know what I mean? Let's take a call and then we'll take a break. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Yelling about the transfer portal. We love it. We love it.
Gets me fired up, Vagabond John. That's all.
I'm excited to see where some of these former Badgers land because, speaking of long-standing narratives, well, those players leave Wisconsin and then don't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, Jordan Turner leading Michigan State in tackles. You got Indiana's offensive line led by two former Badgers, like qualifying for the best offensive line in the country.
Isn't Logan Brown? He had a good season at Kansas, didn't he?
Logan Brown likely going to be a draft pick. So for the Paul Chryst haters, which I recognize doesn't seem like there's too many, at least in the Colin community, not nearly as many as live on Twitter. There's going to be quite a few players from that 2022 class that end up being NFL players or that 2022 team. But I'm interested. James Thompson Jr., defensive line, tough to get those in the portal, taking interviews, if we'll say, at the University of Illinois. So it'll be kind of interesting to see where all these players go. What I was kind of curious, though, and I know we're getting extended portal talk today, but we're going to deal with it for a minute longer. Iowa and Minnesota both already have identified SEC quarterbacks. They're bringing them in. They're talking to them. They're doing the on-campus visits. Grant, are we confident in Wisconsin's QB room next year?
No. How could you be? What if Miller Moss is our quarterback? I can't do that. I'm already out before the season even begins if Miller Moss is the guy.
Right. And so I'm sitting here looking at all these teams making moves, doing this thing. Tretch has already been there and back, right?
Yeah.
The portal's moving fast this year is my point. And it feels like Wisconsin's a little bit behind. Now, that could be because they just got offensive coordinator and you got to kind of start from scratch now. But I don't know. A lot of the narrative was around, hey, the new offensive coordinator is probably going to bring a quarterback. Well, actually, Kansas's quarterback was so happy that the offensive coordinator left, and he's excited to stay in Kansas. So I have no idea where Wisconsin goes to the quarterback. I think it could get ugly if they don't make a move pretty soon here. So little concerned. Panic button is not pressed, but it is on the desk, and I'm looking at it because I'm seeing a lot of Wisconsin's rivals, who, by the way, didn't have a lot of outgoing transfers. I think Iowa's at 10, Wisconsin's at like 18, right? And they're already bringing in a lot of kids to campus this weekend. They're not waiting because I think this portal's going to move fast. And so that's I'm a little nervous about because that's our extended portal talk.
Well, and I appreciate that, Vagabond John. Good call this morning on the morning show. Dave's rebuttal to your call was incredible. If you missed that, maybe I'll play that one more time when we come back. We got to get ready for Mike Clemens at 5:35. We'll put our finishing touches on this conversation. I think I've said all that I need to say personally, but I'll get to some of your texts as well. Mike Clemens nearing. He'll be here at 5:30 to bring us the latest from Green Bay. More of the Wisco Sports Show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Kitty.
Dave from Winona. What's up, my brother? You rang.
Gentle parenting is when if your kids can't understand, shut the hell up, they should never be allowed out of the house. Stephen Crowell, peanut butter and jelly. I will never understand how that big white guy and Tyler Wall got scholarships. Greg Gard, my man, you need to do a better job of vetting these individuals. And as long as that guy is, as long as that person is starting, we are not going to win 9 games in the Big Ten. He needs to be at the end of the bench. Gilmore can't shoot. At least that son of a bitch is tough. He'll get in there. He'll rebound. He'll play a little defense. Peanut butter and jelly just goes, oh hum, oh hum. It's so frustrating to listen to the game the other night. Same thing. To the rim, to the rim, to the rim we go. To the rim, to the rim, to the rim we go.
To the rim we go.
I mean, my God, Greg Gard.
Little Dave from Winona from the morning show this morning. I thought it was one of his better calls in recent memory. First of all, I don't know how he does it. Peanut butter and jelly doesn't make any sense, but it also makes all the sense in the world. And then saying Carter Gilmore, he can't shoot, but at least that son of a bitch has heart. At least he's tough. At least he tries. Peanut butter and jelly, ho hum, ho hum. Just 10 out of 10, Dave, if you're listening. Just know that made my morning. It's the first thing I heard when I got to work this morning, when I got into the Ben Kenny Memorial Producer Studio over there, when Ebo and Austin were hosting. I said, oh, Dave's on. I better sit down and listen to this call in its entirety. Very, very, very good. Mike Clemens coming up in just a couple of minutes. I got a tweet earlier from Mike. His actual Twitter handle is @Barry McCockner, but it's a 0 instead of an O. I don't know why that matters, but about Belichick. And he said, come on, we have no idea whether or not an NFL coaching job was forthcoming. Media is just totally manufacturing narratives here. Do you really think Bill Belichick would be coaching at North Carolina if there was an NFL team that was going to offer him a gig? Now, he did say today, I didn't come here to leave. That's what he said, which, like, my first thought seeing that is like, well, dude, you're 72. Like, do you really want to move again? I'm not saying, isn't this kind of like the last time you want to move? Aren't you kind of chill to die in? I mean, he's not moving. Let people do it. But Zach Halpern did point something out on Twitter. Bill Belichick's buyout to leave is $10 million until June 1st, 2025, when it drops to $1 million. So if he gets an opportunity to go back, like it's pretty cheap. And I don't know why it's structured that way. Maybe UNC wanted to give themselves an out in case this doesn't work. But if they were that skeptical on this not working, why do it? Especially after you just fired Mac Brown for being 73. You know what I mean? It's not like they had a youthful coach and they're like, that youngin was dumb. He didn't have not enough wear, not enough experience. We got to get an elder fella. It's like, no, actually the coach you just got rid of was a year older than Bill Belichick. So I don't know why UNC would be trying to give themselves an out. Like, if you feel like that, like I need an out, well, then just get a different coach then. And also, who really cares about your coach? You're a basketball school anyways. Just things that are rattling around in my skull. That's it. Coyote Mike says that was a classic Dave call this morning. Yeah, that's about as good as it gets. That was absolutely outstanding. Thank you, Dave. The ho-hum part, I mean, not to dissect this call over and over again, but God, that was incredible. Hold on.
And as long as that person is starting, we are not going to win 9 games in the Big Ten. He needs to be at the end of the bench. Gilmore can't shoot. At least that sums a bitch is tough. He'll get in there. He'll rebound. He'll play a little defense. Peanut butter and jelly just goes, oh, hum. Oh, hum.
By the way, happy birthday, Carter Gilmore. Playing some good ball right now.
Peanut butter and jelly just goes, oh, hum. Oh, hum.
Oh, hum. Oh, hum.
Oh, hum. Oh, hum. Same thing. To the rim, to the rim, to the rim we go. To the rim, to the rim, to the rim we go.
That's incredible.
To the rim we go.
I mean, my God, Greg.
I've listened to that so many times today. Let's take a break. Mike Clemens, the best Packers coverage you're going to find. He's up there in Green Bay. Just got off the horn, or not off the horn, but just got out of the media auditorium with the coordinators not too long ago. He'll tell us what he saw at practice, bring us some audio. We'll connect with Mike Clemens coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I think Mike's done an outstanding job.
That's Matt LaFleur from earlier today, and you know what? I would agree. I think Mike does an outstanding job. Mike Clemens joining us now. The Bay Motel and Family Restaurant, they sponsor his appearances on Bill's show, on this show, The Huddle, the postgame show, all across our network. He now joins us from the Bay Motel and Family Restaurant. Mike, it's hard to agree or disagree, I should say, with Matt LaFleur there. I do think you do just an excellent job.
Yeah, that's really an honor. Although I think he was talking about the new head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, Mike McDonald. There.
Yeah.
Speaking of the new head coaches, I happened to catch Bill Belichick and this breaking news press conference. I look up here at the monitor here, and there he is being introduced at the University of North Carolina. And I saw him again in the news monitor just by chance, like between practice and a press conference or something here in Green Bay, and he's on the McAfee show, and he does this detailed explanation about if he says, if I get this job, if I end up being a college coach, I'm going to build a program that makes players NFL ready.
Sure.
And he's already hired, I guess, Michael Lombardi, who's been on the show, as his GM of the college, because you got to worry about the payments with all this. And Lombardi's been around the league. But today, there's Belichick in a very nice suit, and he's being introduced from a university official by the name of Bubba Cunningham. And Bubba leads with as Yogi Berra once said, and I'm like, oh, God, not a Yogi Berra quote. Really?
Right.
Aren't we tired of those? As the great Yogi Berra once said, the future ain't what it used to be. Yeah. Okay, funny. And then, before he introduces Bill Belichick, he stands up and he cuts off the arms of his suit.
I saw that.
To look like a Belichick hoodie, with the sleeves cut off.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the coach, Bill Belichick, like, oh, man. Okay, Bill, you want to go down to the small town hick stuff, right? That shtick. They're doing shtick, Grant. They're doing shtick for us.
And I guess I don't really care. It's not like he coached here. I'm just bummed that, imagine if you were a Patriots fan or a Patriots media member, you would be dying to see. We want to know what it looks like when you go to coach Jacksonville or you go to coach Chicago. Like, imagine if Aaron Rodgers left the Packers and that was it. And we never got to see it anywhere else. And we never got to, follow along. I just think it's crummy for the story for NFL fans. I mean, okay, sure. Maybe he'll win some games down there. I don't think it'll matter nearly as much as anything he would have accomplished or would have failed to accomplish in the NFL.
And let me ask you, I've been in the room with Bill Belichick at least a dozen times, often press conferences when we go and cover Super Bowls. He's been a lot, and stood up and asked a question or two. The last time I saw him was when he was here for that preseason game, year before last. It was last year with the Patriots.
The one they called early, right?
Yeah. One of his defensive backs took a headshot and had to be taken out on a stretcher.
That's right.
And was okay a couple of days later, but I believe spent the rest of the year on IR and did not play for them because it was a severe, head and neck injury. And here's the thing, there's no doubt if you're a young reporter and you're doing this, and you get in front of one of these famous coaches that maybe you've been watching growing up or whatever, the thing is you don't want to embarrass yourself, right?
Yeah.
And you want to try and ask, a pointed question, but that some of these guys, like for me, the first one would have been Ditka. It's like, this is a fair question. And these guys are masters at being bullies and making you look stupid, right? They've got some sort of a comeback, and you better be ready for it. And you can't lip off at them, but you've got to return the volley somehow, right? And the thing about Bill is, as smart as he is, as experienced and as famous he is, you don't get that when he walks in the room. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's who he is. He's just going to mumble, and he's going to listen to your question. He's going to think about it for 2 or 3 seconds, and he may go long. Most of the time, it's right. I don't think that matters. But he's not going to attack you or embarrass you as a reporter, or maybe around him. And I think that's one of the things that might be actually appealing, because there's so many other things that he does that just makes these guys work all day.
Well, and you know who's asking him questions now, Mike? And I didn't even think about this until today. Kevin Holden. He's now on the Bill Belichick beat down there because he's in Carolina. He was at the presser today. And I'm like, what a win!
Yeah.
What a
Kevin,
windfall for Kevin.
Right.
Changes markets, and all of a sudden, who just arrived? Oh, Bill Belichick now coaches in Chapel Hill.
Kevin had to move, to a CBS station in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh boy, he's giving up Brewers and Packers and Bucks and all that kind of stuff. And his first assignment is to cover Bill Belichick coming to the college, so that's a great break.
Yeah.
So today I had a chance to talk to some various guys and just kind of chill, sort of think, because if there's time here, and maybe I'll save some of this rant for tomorrow, but I just had a waitress come to me and say, can I talk about the game? Sure. Last week, sure. Her family is, a lot of her family's Lions fans because they're from the UP, from Upper Michigan. She's kind of a Packers fan, but she says, I'm so disappointed. I think that the Packers were robbed from that game last Thursday night by some of those bad calls by the refs. And I said, they factor in there's going to be 4 or 5 bad calls a game.
Yep.
I said, the Packers just, to me, the way the Lions play that, it just said to me, the Packers are not going to the Super Bowl this year. They're just not there. They don't have a signature win. Maybe the best win they've had this season was actually those 2 games that they had to prepare without Jordan Love and managed to put together a game plan to help Malik Willis win a game. And the loss to the Vikings, we keep talking about the health of Jordan Love. Well, hell, that was his first week back from a knee injury, and he had to make a comeback to come close in that one. So today, I'm talking about this new head coach of the Seahawks. Who knows anything about Mike McDonald? Well, actually, he was a defensive coordinator for the Ravens for a couple of years. So he's got some Ravens and John Harbaugh in him and his background. He grew up in a town called Roswell, Georgia. It's north of Atlanta, about an hour. A lot of good football comes out of there. Dan was a student at Georgia, not a college level football player, a high school player. And I said, Ross, there's a couple of guys who are from here, right? Yeah, Teron Hopper, the rookie linebacker who's on some special teams, and Xavier McKinney. And so I said to Xavier, did you know that this head coach is from your hometown?
Oh, I did not know that.
You guys went
Roswell
High.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Do you know other players?
Like in the league from
your
No. Not from Roswell. I think we are the only. Let me think. Yeah, we are the only 3, like the last 3 standing right now. We made it out, man. We had some other people. Trey Lamar, he was in the league for a second. I think that's really about it.
That's you, and that's enough.
Yeah. But yeah, it's some other people. But yeah, I think it's a good community. We obviously grew up around great people, people that mentored us. Jermaine Phillips. I don't know if you know who Jermaine Phillips is. He was actually my DB coach at high school, but he's like my mentor. He's family, really. But he went to Georgia. He went to Roswell, then he went to Georgia, and then he played on the Tampa Bay team when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And what year was
about
that?
20 years ago.
Yeah, it was a little while ago. So yeah, we just had great people that just, help us grow into the men that we are today.
It's good. That's a cool part about football, Mike, is you have player, Tucker Kraft comes from, Timberlake, South Dakota, and then, a town down in Georgia, you can find 2 or 3 football related people who are also from there. It's a cool sport in that way. There's a lot of connections.
Yeah. And for me, I just know when you're in high school and you're trying hard, but you're just not sure. Do I have a chance at this? Do I have any chance of getting a scholarship, going to a big college program, and then maybe some some NFL team will spot me. And when you're a high school kid and your defensive back coach played in the Super Bowl under John Gruden after they fired Tony Dungy and Brad Johnson and Warren Sapp, and you beat the Raiders and Charles Woodson and win a Super Bowl, and now this guy is your coach on your high school field, that when you're just 1 degree away, that's got to whet the appetite. Say, if I keep working, what's it like? How much harder do I have to work in order to get there? I just think that makes so much difference. And now look at this. This is one of the best players in the NFL, just a couple steps away. So then Mike McDonald from the same town, a different school across town than that Roswell High, actually probably a nicer school. He gets a business degree at Georgia, starts working as a coach, and at 37, he's now one of the youngest coaches ever in the NFL. And he talked about, facing a guy like Matt LaFleur and the legacy of the Packers.
They play a great brand of football. They play winning football. They've been doing it throughout their entire franchise history, and especially since Matt's got there and doing his thing. So we got a lot of respect for them and how they play. They're a physical football team. They play really hard. They attack the football. They take care of it on offense. They do all the things necessary that you need to do to be a really good football team. And they do those things.
How similar or different is LaFleur from just the Shanahan McVay tree? Like, how much influence do you see in his style of offense?
It's definitely this is his offense. I mean, you feel that this is his vision for his players, and you have to have a starting point somewhere. You can't no one just invents stuff. Everyone learns from people and kind of comes up through the ranks. And that's what Matt does. But you can definitely tell this is his vision for their offense. You can tell it around their players and how they build stuff formationally. But yeah, it's definitely unique to them.
I think if Mike McDonald was an offensive guy, Mike, he'd be getting a lot more run as one of these young, sharp next generation guys. But he's a defensive guy and he's coaching in Seattle, which is a little isolated and kind of outside of the flow of some of the biggest brands, at least in football. But I think he's as smart and bright as any of the young coaches in football. And it's cool to hear that he, respects what the Packers have been doing for a long time. I like that.
And he's in the shadow of Mike Holmgren.
Yeah.
Who doesn't talk a lot. Holmgren talks when he gets paid. So he's paid by a station to do a break once a week there. And he tells great, not only Seahawks stories, but still great Green Bay stories. Just, I can go on and on. We got him on the show once or twice from Super Bowl. And this Seahawks team, 8-5. Listen, the losses that they've had are like to the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't had any stinkers. They've won the games that they should have won, like the way they beat the Cardinals the other week. And the teams that they've lost to are teams that are going to the playoffs. Like the Lions beat them 42-29.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they rolled over the Dolphins 24-3 earlier in the season, and they beat a tough Broncos defense 26-20. So this is a dangerous team. I'm not here to hype the games. It's just when you start learning more and more about this Seahawks team, and we had a chance to talk to LaFleur about what about this old Mike Holmgren thing? Because in the 90s, Holmgren comes and takes over this losing or 500 perennial 500 operation. And he tells these players, you give me wins. Get me 8 wins at home. And then go 4-4, back when they played that schedule. Go 4-4 on the road. We'll be 12-4, and you'll be going to the playoffs. And so LaFleur was asked about that formula today.
I guess that old NFL adage is foreign to me because you're trying to win every game. I don't care where you're playing. To me, it's about staying true to your process and trying to get better each and every day and making sure that you're on your details, because I do think the details separate good from great and capitalizing on opportunities. And so I don't know why that's the case. I think it's a lot of credit goes to our players to be able to go out there and execute. And that's what this game's all about. We've got that mentality. You're trying to win every game, and you can only do it one game at a time. So just focusing on that process and trying to do the best you can each and every day on the practice field, in the meeting rooms. I think that gives you a chance to go out there and play your best ball on Sundays.
So Mike kind of poo-pooed the Holmgrenism and then went on to use his own cliches. But the things that he said, paying attention to the details, making sure we're on top of this, that, and the other thing. That's how you win on the road, Mike. Right, as you pay attention to those things. That's how you win road games. You need to do those things.
We're already 6 years into this relationship, and you're still really trying to figure out what Matt LaFleur is like. That's just the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of a Mike McCarthy thing where he really didn't want to talk about growing up in Pittsburgh and his dad running the bar. And some of that came out around the Super Bowl time, but some of the smarter coaches that have watched and observed and say, always make it about the players. Always make it about the players. You start telling little stories about your childhood and, in Michigan growing up and stuff like that if you're Matt LaFleur.
Yeah.
And then somehow when you lose a game or there's something embarrassing, that gets connected and twisted, and then they start mocking you. So you just always make it about the game and the players. But you also do that as a leader to motivate these guys and to tell them, I'm only here to talk about this week's game. I don't want to talk about any other crap. If there's a personal problem, Romeo Dobbs, we'll take care of it. But other than that, I need you to focus on the game. I'm here to help you to win this game this week. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game.
Yeah.
And that's LaFleur is a robot. I talked to Jaden Reed. Now this is not big rah-rah, kinds of sound. This is not hot sound. This is just having a conversation with a guy who he amazed me from the start last year as a rookie. And I said, watch out for this number 11. This kid is really sharp in the way he leads, the way he performs at practice every day. And I said, there's this big picket fence sign that like 30 some years ago was the first guy. Now everybody does it around Lambeau Field, where they've sold their houses and they turn them into these huge party houses. But this one guy painted a fence, green and gold, and on there he put a message: Reggie and Super Bowl has a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
He was referring to Reggie White. He painted a likeness of Reggie White, and they went and won the Super Bowl that year, Super Bowl 31 with Brett and Holmgren and all those guys. This year, the message is, read all about it. And I asked Jaden Reed, number 11, have you seen that sign across the street?
Have you ever seen this before?
Yes, I have.
Lombardi Avenue, man.
Yeah.
What do you think when you see that?
I mean, really, it's a blessing, to even be here, playing for this organization, to even be thought about like that. I cherish everything like that. So, it's a blessing to, even have that, being a thought.
They got some adults at wide receiver, Mike, and I know Dobbs was unhappy earlier. We got about 2 minutes, but I'm just continually impressed at the maturity of these young wide receivers to, I haven't got targets in 2 weeks. Okay, I'm going to continue to do my job and know that eventually I'm going to get some chances in this offense.
And the versatility, and you see A.J. Brown becoming, well, he claims it didn't happen, but you see him, here you got a shot not get to the playoffs, and he's whining about not enough touchdown passes. Then there's Jaden Reed, versatility. Sometimes he's got 0 targets, and sometimes he's got 8 or 9. And I said I cannot get over this group of rookies or second-year players, and you just lost a really close game to Russell Wilson and the Broncos last year in Denver. And there's Jaden Reed pulling together folding chairs, putting them in a circle, telling all the receivers, we're going to sit down here. We're going to talk about this right now. Guys are just walking in their shoulder pads and cleats and stuff. No, you sit your butt down right now. I want to talk about what just happened out there because this ain't going to happen again.
Yeah.
And they started having these Tuesday meetings. And I asked Jade if, how does he consider himself? How did he choose himself as the leader of the receivers?
Yeah, we all lead each other at the end of the day, but, I do feel like I can bring a certain energy, to the group and just bring all the guys together in a certain type of way. That I've always been a team guy like that because, it's not just about one person or it's not about me. I just try to do my best to keep everybody together and, make sure we all on the same page. We all chasing the same goals. So, I try my best to, try to lead in that way.
Well, it's not necessarily that Reed is smarter or more important than anyone else, but sometimes it just takes one guy to say what everyone's thinking and to just do, we're all thinking the same thing. I'll just be the one to say it. I won't be afraid. I'll come out and say it. Mike, I got to run because we got to get to Ebo and Zach. Wrap up the week tomorrow with you on Bill's show.
Talk to you then.
Yeah, talk to you then, Mike. I appreciate your coverage, your time, always. Let's take a 3-minute break. Thorson and Heilprin, Zach and Ebo coming up in just a couple minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Last minute or so, the Wisco Sports Show. Getting ready to turn things over to Zach and Jesse. Thorson and Heilprin live at Monks and Sun Prairies to stop in. Enjoy Thursday night football, some drinks, some food, some fellowship. Ebo and Zach are both an excellent hang. I actually got to go over that way to pick up a Christmas gift. I'm going to stop in, get some wings. Oh, they got good wings at Monks. I'll weigh it. Maybe I will stop by. Loaded Bill Michaels show tomorrow. We got a Seahawks guest. We got Tyler Dunn, who's got a Sean Ryan story coming out at Go Long. So we'll connect with him. And, of course, wrap up the show. The final word for the week before we leave for the weekend with Mike Clemens. Getting ready for Packers Seahawks and a lot of commentary from the Packers coordinators as well, who met with the media today. So that's coming up tomorrow, 4 to 6. I don't know. I'll figure it out between now and then. Never miss a Friday show, one way or another. Have an excellent night.